The following show is a paid program.
Hey family, how you doing today? I am so excited. I'm telling you, about 2 years ago, I wrote on a piece of paper, Felix Bighem. I said, I want to meet this guy. I've got to meet him. Can you believe he's the brand manager of Rolls-Royce, McLaren, and Lamborghini? They are the first one and the only still African-American owned Rolls-Royce, McLaren, and Lamborghini in the entire world. Hello, my friend, Mr. Felix. Man.
Hi, Cam. How are you?
I am excellent. I so appreciate you. Sometimes they say, or they always say, God used to say, write it down and make it plain. 2 years ago, way before this, I wrote your name down because I remember reading over and over of how you guys started. And I said, I really want to meet him. And look at God.
Yeah, look at him. He looks good on you, Cam.
He looks real good on you, my friend. Let's talk about it. Let's get started. Let's find out how all this happened, how all it started. Where did you start? How did you get into the industry of automobiles?
Well, it was my wife's idea. We were broke, going through some very difficult times, and financially, I had been separated from the United States Marine Corps, which I served for about 11, 12 years. And being separated, it was like trying to figure out something to do. And so she had witnessed some other people, other men that had gotten out of the Marine Corps and had done well. And I had tried a couple other things, Zales jewelry. I managed that, and then went to New York Life, and then from New York Life, and things didn't go. They went well, but then it didn't go well. Trying to manage a portfolio, trying to build a portfolio early in the industry, I was very unfamiliar with. And then when that kind of went south, we really kind of hit a hard place. So we were really trying to figure out how we were going to make it as a young family, having 4 children,
right?
And in our first home that cost us about $58,000. And so on the verge of almost losing all of that, the house, the car, and then having to bury both our mothers within 45 days. It was a traumatic portion of what I would call God's love story.
Yes.
And so one day I was sitting there trying to figure out what I was going to do, and my wife came and she said, "Look, honey," she said, "why don't you try selling cars? I've seen some of your colleagues get out and they're doing well doing it." And I said, "I don't want to sell cars. They got a bad reputation. You're out in the cold, and I've already experienced that with the Marine Corps, so I didn't want that again." And I was like, no. And then so finally one day I finally looked back over how she had supported me in almost everything I had done.
Right.
I mean, anything I wanted to do, I tried in New York Life and the jewelry stores and all the other stuff. Whether it was success or failure, she supported it. So I said, well, at least I could do is give her the respect she deserves. Right. At least try it. Yeah. So I tried it, and within about 2 weeks, that was the first thing I ever quit in my life, because it was a lot to deal with. Traumatically having to deal with just the transition of getting out of the military. And a lot of people don't have no idea, if you've not been in the military and having to get out, at some point, it could be very traumatizing, being accustomed to a certain regiment every day, and then it changes all of a sudden. And then as a young man, it's very difficult because, young African American men oftentimes don't know where to go. Right. And then as far as mentors and stuff like that, I can't say I didn't have them, but even sometimes when you're going through some very difficult times, as I went through, You just sometimes you can feel embarrassed, you can feel ashamed, you can feel less than. And I went through all this gamut of emotions, and then so finally I thought I sat down for a moment and I allowed myself just to be still, and I said, okay, at least I could try this. The car business was not something I would have ever chosen in my life, not ever, but it was the plan that God had me in for my life.
Yes.
And my wife spoke it into existence. She wasn't
Mm.
aggressive about it. She would give me $5 to go to work back and forth every day when I was working for New York Life. And then in this transition, I said, okay, I'll try it. So I went and I didn't have to just apply. It's almost like God had a path for me. Her first cousin was already in the business. And so I went and sat down and talked with him, and he had this bright gleaming light of faith on his face, like yours. And he said that I could see him looking at me and vicariously starting to live his life over again through whatever success he believed I would have.
Right.
And it's always interesting. I've learned now as I've lived a little bit more, because I've now been in the car business over 30 years, that oftentimes people can see something in you that you can't see in yourself because of your dark day.
Exactly.
And so that's how it all began. So I started off at Riddle Acura, which was in Chesapeake. And I hadn't been there, I don't know, maybe a good 4 or 5 months, and things were really starting to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
Acura had just came out with its NSX. And then right on the brink of things turning around for me, and that's being able to overcome bankruptcy, my mother got killed in a car accident.
Mm.
So we were both in our mid to late 20s. We just had our last son, which is Felix, the third. And we just didn't know what to do with that. It was so catastrophic for me, because at that time I was probably in my late 20s, and if I had broke 30 yet. And I didn't really know my biological dad yet. I knew who he was, I knew where he was, but there was not a relationship I knew that would be the benchmark of my success, my
Right.
biological dad. And so to this day now, man, he's my dude. I mean, he's encouraged me like no other people could, but I gave him a chance to do it, and I gave myself a chance to have a relationship with him later on.
Wow.
So we got through that, and then right after we got through, my mom, her mom died within 45 days.
Wow.
And so and the reason why I'm sharing all this, I'm being this transparent, is because oftentimes people going through stuff don't realize it's what you go through that makes you.
Yes.
It's not always what you know and what you do that makes you. It's what you go through that makes you.
Mm-hmm.
And so shortly after my mom died, my uncle died. And within 30 days after that, my wife's mother died.
Mm-hmm.
Her last living sister died on the airplane trying to get to the funeral. And then within a week or two after that, my grandmother died.
Mm.
And these were all pillars for me, because
Right.
I was very close with my mom. I had a very, very nice, I had a very pleasant relationship with my mother-in-law. And to lose both of them at one time, and then lose my grandmother, which I would always go visit when I was in the military, it can't get any more traumatic than that. And then being on the verge of bankruptcy.
Right.
So it's only by the grace of God I even survived it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing, Cam, that it seemed like everything I touched in the car business, I mean, everything I touched, it's like God blessed it. And when I came in the car business, it wasn't at a time when the business was booming. It was a time when the interest rates were high.
Right.
And they were, and America itself was talking about possibly another depression.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And I would go on to succeed. I would leave Acura as soon as I came back from my mom. Actually, I got fired from Acura when I got as soon as I got back from. You want to edit these stories, but
Right.
I'm gonna be. I think sometimes we need to be real, because I think real stories kind of help people more than
They
these
do.
made up stories we try to make them out to be.
Absolutely.
And if God's gonna get any glory out of this, then
Mm-hmm.
you have to give them the truth.
Right.
The moment I got back from my mother's funeral, within a week, I got fired from the job I had at Acura.
Mm. Mm.
I would now go to the Casey Auto Group. And when I got fired, it was my fault. It wasn't the company's fault. It was my fault. And it wasn't because I was gone too long, because I've done something I shouldn't have done. They just couldn't prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then and I'm telling all this because we all take chances in life,
Yes.
but even the chance we take, God has a way of protecting you.
Yes. Yes.
So then I would go to the Casey Auto Group, where I really didn't know anybody, and it was very difficult because I think if I was brave enough, I probably wouldn't be sitting before you.
Mm.
So this suicide thing that these young folks are going through now is not new. I think oftentimes we all have reached moments of depression, and we felt like life was no longer worth living. And you can believe me, I've had my share of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and God has not always been prevalent in my life, but He's always been relevant in my life.
Right. 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 Mm-hmm.
So as I got to as I got to the Casey Auto Group, following my cousin, my wife's first cousin, he leaves not long after that, and then after he leaves, I decide to stay,
Mm-hmm.
and that now will become my benchmark of success.
Wow.
My first 6 months with the group, I did extremely well, and I had a conversation with the owner, which was Art Casey at the time, and still is. And I shared with him. I said, I said next year, I had never done this before. I said next year I'm gonna make $100,000.
Mm.
This is in 1990, I believe, 1990, 1991. He kind of chuckled, and me, young people don't know how to be scared.
Right.
Okay, when they have this when they are relevant to when things are relevant what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and so in doing that, he kind of chuckled, and I looked over at my wife. I said, I don't think he took me serious.
Mm-hmm.
And so before she could grab me back, I done tapped him on the shoulder again. I said, Mr. Casey. He said, yes, Mr. Bighem, how can I help you? I said, I was serious. I don't think you took me serious. And so in the moment, he calls the GM over, at that time, which was Jay Malone. And he says, Jay, look, he said, Felix has made his mind up that he's going to make $100,000 next year. Now, I did not know at that moment that there was not a salesperson in the group in the 1990s that was making that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
I think their best salespeople at that time were making, I guess, somewhere between 60 and 70,000.
Right.
And I had never made more than about 40 or $50,000 a year before that moment.
Right.
And so he brings Jay over, and he said, look, he said, Mr. Bighem has already made a decision. He's professed that he's going to make $100,000 next year. And what I'm sharing with you in front of him is that we're going to do everything we can to help him.
Wow. Wow.
Now, that's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
That had to have been one of the hardest years I had to deal with my emotions, anxiety, and frustration ever. It seemed like everything was against me.
Mm-hmm.
By September of that year, Cam, I had already made 99.
Of
And
that
his
year.
son came to me that same year. By September of that same calendar year, his son, Sean, came to me. He said, look, my dad and I had breakfast this morning. And he said to me that he's actually got a salesperson that works for me that's going to make over $100,000 this year. And we haven't seen that in the history of this group in some time. And I would now go on to set a benchmark for the group that the possibilities of making $100,000 a year legitimately was on the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now that would go on to be, I would go on to be salesman of the year that year. And of course, I shattered the goal of 100. But I didn't do it just by saying it. I worked.
Right.
And I worked. And I worked. And so and I would listen to, at that time, the Sounds of Blackness was out. And I remember the song, My Back Was Against the Wall.
Yeah.
I got more bills than money can pay.
Yes.
But I know just who to call on. And so that was my, if Shaft had a theme song, that was my theme song at the time.
Right.
And while I listened to the song, sometimes on my way to work, I would cry. And, but then when I got to work, I worked. And so I really believe I got the help I needed, but not knowing what help I needed, because keep in mind, I had never done this before.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go on that year, and 8 years later after that, to be consecutively their salesman of the year, and then shatter goals that had not been made in some time.
Wow.
And I can't say I was always happy in those years. I was in my mind, and I was successful, because now I'm having to live these years without the people, or the person or people that I love the most, which is my mother-in-law, my mother, my grandmother. And so they got in my mind a chance to see none of this stuff.
Right.
And so I would finish my career at Casey, probably back in 2001, 2002. And then I would join with Thomas A. Moorhead and Joyce A. Moorhead at what we called then BMW of Sterling.
Well, let's do this real quick. Let's see a video of Sterling Motor Car. Wow, just excellent. Excellent, 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 excellent. I want to read something that you said, my friend. From coming from bankruptcy and all, and then coming to now, it says Felix Bighem speaks directly to the hearts and minds of people from all walks of life, helping them to discover their purpose and destiny in business and in life. His desire to help people by alleviating the conditions that seem to keep them disenfranchised, and this has kept him in the business of selling cars as a vocation and fulfilling his purpose. He provides the best service possible to all clients and treat everyone as first class regardless of their financial status. You say, my friend, I consider it a privilege to be used by God in any capacity that he says. I just want to live out my call and in many ways help people discover their purpose and experience the victory that comes with the destined life. My friend, you've done that. You've done that. And I want you to know that. We appreciate you so much. Thank God for you. Thank God for you stepping out those 30 years ago. And I wanted you to know that. Thank you. Let's show some pictures of my friend real quick. We're going to show some, hold that thought. We're going to show some pictures of him in his style. Let's show some pictures. There you go. That's Mr. Felix right there. That's Mr. Felix. And him on the plane. Okay. You wanted to say something, Mr. Felix?
I did. I left probably the most important part out.
Yeah.
I mean, the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, while I was at the KC Auto Group and wrestling with, I guess, the demons of life,
yeah,
God decided to refine the call.
Mm-hmm.
And like many of us, we search through life as to what our call is. And even sometimes when it comes, you run from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had that conversation earlier.
Right.
As God would begin to define this call, business for me increased. It didn't decrease.
Right.
But I got the business and the call.
Mm.
And I remember at the time we were worshiping at Second Calvary in Norfolk, and the pastor was Jeffrey Guns, which he still is. And we started learning a lot about things we knew nothing about coming up in church. He was a great teacher. And as he began to teach, he also implemented the things he taught about, tithing and offering and things of that nature. But then there was a very pivotal shift that would take place in the ministry. He began to share with me, and he started teaching on fasting and praying.
Mm.
And I remember my wife said, "Honey, we're gonna commit to this." This is before fasting and praying is as it is now. When people start talking about the Daniel fast, no one talked about the Daniel fast back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was a 21-day fast we were committing to. He gave us information pertaining to it, and because I was asthmatic and I had different issues as far as my eating habits, I had to consult with my doctor to make sure I could fast, and so I did, and so we went on this 21-day fast. At this time, because this is going to open the door for something else.
Mm-hmm.
I had some very strong. God opened the door to me to end up in places I never thought I would be.
Right.
Teddy Riley became a very powerful client of mine, and he wasn't just a client; he became like family.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of welcomed me in. And now I would get introduced to a whole lot of different artists that we now know, from Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Patti LaBelle. And these are people I was exposed to. And I thank God for being exposed to the people at that level then. So I'm not overwhelmed by it now. Right. And I realize they're just people too. Mm-hmm. And they just want life just like we do. Mm-hmm. And as we started that fasting process, I committed myself to the fast.
Wow.
And when the fast came to its end, the ministry that God would now call me to, I was already serving in the capacity of pastoring people from a dealership. Mm. Mm. And I cannot tell you from being taught by Jeffrey Guns and other ministers and preachers around the Hampton Roads Beltway, Dwight Riddick, Ronnie Joyner, and I'll miss a lot of names just if I keep naming people.
Right.
But they were very adamant and anal about me learning it the right way and doing things the right way. Not so much as being traditional, but at least having a sense of an identity of how God was working with me and in me and through me. Right. When it came to what people were getting. They weren't just getting an automobile. Right. They were getting someone that truly loved and cared for them. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many car notes I paid, how many mortgages I paid, how many funerals I've been to, baby dedications, weddings, and all those things because I genuinely care about the people I serve. Wow. And I realize this, Cam, that people never care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And so once we went through this fasting process, the anointing on my life would increase in such a way that would be so perplexing to me that God was now preparing me for my next venture in life. And this is how I met the Moorheads.
Wow.
BMW North America had voted me in as being on their regional sales council. And what they do in the sales council is they gather people from all over the United States. They take them to a place, they get your ideas, and then that's how they develop and remarket their strategy for building their new automobiles. And so I was a part of that. I was a part of an elite group, and I never imagined this in my whole life, Cam. I never imagined the places I've been and things I've been involved in. And when I got to Sterling, I was broken. I was really broken. I was separated from the church I had been going to that I loved. I was separated from an environment that I had become very good at, and people knew me. And it's nothing worse than in your mind to like starting all over again.
Right.
But what I didn't realize then is what God was preparing me for was something I had not been exposed to. There was a degree of wealth that I was not familiar with that's in this northern DC corridor. And a wealth I was not familiar with. And because I wasn't familiar with it, I stayed confined in the tradition that I knew. And God said the pot was too small. And so as he cracked the pot and took me out of it and moved me, and I came here scratching, kicking, biting, and crying. Even to the point where my wife said, let's just come on back home, because we done been down that road with you before. We ain't going through that again.
Right.
I said, no. I said, no, with tears in my eyes. I said, no. I said, I know this is where the Lord has sent me.
Yeah.
And so what God had to do is he had to deal with my pride, my ego, to get me to a place of humility, of where he could really use the gift he's placed inside of me, that men and women and children, according to his gospel, would be saved.
Hold that thought right there. We're going to take a break, and I want you to tell us more about that, Felix. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
During the season's best sales event, Ron Carter Cadillac delivers 0% APR for 72 months plus $2,500 bonus cash on all 2020 XT4, XT5, and XT6. Or drive 2020 XT4 Luxury Collection only $299 a month. 2020 XT5 Premium Luxury Collection just $369 a month. And first ever 2020 XT6 Premium Luxury Collection just $399 a month. All for 39-month lease with just $1 down.
RonCarterCadillac.com.
I'm attorney Willie Powles. Allow me to express myself with you. If you've been hurt or injured in a car or truck accident, give me a call and we'll get it fixed today.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Have you been injured in an 18-wheeler accident, truck accident, car accident? Was someone texting and ran into the back of you, not paying attention? It doesn't matter what it is. Give me a call, attorney Willie Powles. We'll fix it today. The number is 281-881-2457. Again, that number is 281-881-2457. We'll fix it today. Call attorney Willie Powles.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, we are back with Felix Bighem. Hey, my friend, we were talking about humility.
Yeah, yes. So there was an unleashed power
Yeah.
that was locked away inside of me. And the only way it would come out is in the absence of pride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about pride, like being proud of what you do, being prideful in the work you do. But God can't do anything with pride,
Right.
because pride means it's about me, and it's not about you and nobody else. And when God wants to make manifest His presence, it's only about Him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through these breaking moments with God, and I stood in the mirror one day. I looked in the mirror. I said, God, show me me.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea, Cam, what I was asking for.
Yeah.
But I knew there was something not right, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And oftentimes, when there's something wrong with you, you really know what it is. You just don't want to deal with it. But when I asked God to show me me, and He started showing me, it hurt so bad. And I had another comment. I said, God, am I that bad? He said, no, you're a whole lot worse. He said, I'm only showing you what you can handle.
Mm.
And He began to take me through this metamorphosis to reshaping me, not the way the world had me to believe I was or what I had to be,
Mm-hmm.
but what He had ordained for me to be before I was born, before He placed me inside my mother's womb.
Mm.
And I can say this, with a great degree of humility. If I get emotional, it's only because He has done it.
Yeah.
A lot of men and women have been saved through conversations over buying a car,
Yeah.
only because I was able to put myself aside
Right.
and to show them how much I really cared, and then move myself out of the way and let them see how much God cares.
Absolutely. On this morning, I will tell you something. A friend of mine, Garland Dabney, he's probably looking right now. He's out of the D.C. area, Virginia, D.C. area. And he's a realtor as well as a developer in the area. And he mentioned something to me. He said, Cameron, I remember Mr. Bighem coming to my church and giving away cars to 4 single mothers. So let's look at that. This is First Baptist Church of Glenarden, and it's in the Virginia area. Let's look at the video.
On behalf of Thomas and Joyce Ann Moorhead, the presidents and chairmen of the Sterling Motor Group, we have decided as a group to give one of your members a car.
What we've decided to do is to give the car to a single mother named Javel Tate, April Lanier, Marilyn Lacey. So, listen, Marilyn has 8 kids. She's a single mother whose husband died a few years ago.
Oh my goodness, it changed my life in a sense that now I can move all of my kids at one time and not have to leave half the group home because there's 8 of them. This is just amazing. Like, I'm really at a loss for words, which is really rare for me.
It's everything. It changes safety, reliability. I can get them to and from church and school and not necessarily have to worry about if the car going to break down or something. It changes the whole dynamic.
So family, just to understand what was happening, that was 4 single mothers, and one of those mothers had 8 children. and she would
Yeah.
have to leave half of her children home, drop them off wherever she was going, and then go back and pick up the rest and bring them with her. Now she could take all of them. My God, it was 4 mothers when they announced only one single mother. That was the whole thing.
Well,
My friend.
Cam, actually, it was 4 services that day.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So my wife and I got there that morning about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even tell you how nervous I was with the whole thing, and I was giving the stuff away. But it's something about walking into an atmosphere
Yes.
where God is present.
Yes. Yes.
I don't care how big or bold you think you are. It's something about being before God's people
Yes.
and God using you in a way like that can humble any man or woman.
Hmm.
And so we got there about 5:30, 6 o'clock that morning, and we were there until about, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock that evening, because they had 4 services. So each service, um, uh, as a dealership, we decided to give a car away for each service, not just for one person.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat down and talked with Pastor Jenkins prior to this, and of course he had questions for us because he didn't solicit us. We actually went to him, and we want to make an impact in the kingdom, and what better way to do it than to give according to the scripture? It says,
Right.
"Give and it shall be given back to you." It didn't say go market and you'll get it back. It says give and it will be given back to you. And I can't begin to tell you the amount of blessings that have come to us since then. But so we got there, and then each service, we gave away a car.
Wow.
Thomas and Joyce Ann was very kind in doing so. And at that time, we were under the leadership of Paul White. And Paul White had his theory and theme was, if we're going to pay money for marketing, why don't we just do this? Why don't we just give and let's see what God does? And so we came together, and our chairman and chairwoman, Tom and Joyce Ann Moorhead, supported him in the vision that he had, and therefore we went forward in doing this. And I can't tell you that lifetime. That's the experience of a lifetime, not just changing for the moms that received the cars that they needed, but the impact it would now have on our lives as well.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's good right there. That's good right there. Let's talk about the financing of vehicles. Many times we go into a dealership and we're upside down most of the time. We're going, and this is just going into a dealership. You've been in financing for a long time, as I was reading. And many times that's where we get taken a lot of times, that we've bought a car, either we've put too many miles on it or it's not working, or, once we drive off the car, the lot, the brand new car, as we turn back around, try to take it back, it's half price by the time we get through with it. So many of us don't know how to go and purchase a car. We really just don't. We don't know how to purchase one. We really don't.
Sure. So I think the first thing, and now with cyberspace,
right,
there's so many things that people do prior to coming into a dealership.
Mm-hmm.
They search the website. They're
Right.
trying to find somebody that fits their eye. Excuse me. So by the time we actually see them, they know the now buyer.
Right.
So keep in mind, I got now 30 plus years doing this. So
Right.
I've seen this change
Right.
through 3 different decades.
Mm-hmm.
The now buyer is a lot more informative,
Mm-hmm.
has a lot more information. I'm saying something, but I'm getting to a point.
Right. Absolutely.
And so even with all that information, knowledge is only power when you know what to do with it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think the car buying experience, and I learned this earlier in my career, that it is one of the most stressful things that we go through as people,
Right.
Regardless of color, because I think sometimes we add stress to the equation.
Mm-hmm.
It's relatively simple. You already know what you like.
Yes.
And so when you know what you like, the car buying experience, and this term you used upside down. I've heard this, and unfortunately, we have taught people how to say things that really have no relationship to anything.
Right.
It's like, how can you be
right.
upside
we owe more
down?
than what it's worth.
And so the term would be, it's either you're in an equitable position or you're in a negative equitable position.
That's it.
And so I think a lot of times people may not understand money.
Yeah.
And when you don't understand money, sometimes the position you end up with in a car buying experience is because you're trying to, in some cases, negotiate to the so-called best deal. And the best deal is not based on how you beat the dealer to that bottom line. And I know contrary to a whole lot of people will say that, but we didn't stay in business giving everything away, and we could not have stayed in business doing that. It's no different than, the people that are that work for the government or people that are in the military. When they go to work, they expect when payday comes to get a check. The government functions and operates by collecting taxes from us.
Yes.
And how they fuel the government is based on our taxes. People, when they go to work to provide for their families. So the car business is not that much different. I mean, it's not hard to figure out what a car costs.
Right.
But I think sometimes what we in our industry have created is an atmosphere that's not always pleasant to the consumer. So the consumer's already on guard coming in, not having to buy the car, but having to deal with the money piece. So I think you cannot eliminate negative equity or being upside down without putting money into it.
There you go.
Most cars are not investments. And unfortunately, in the beginning of my car industry, we would sell a car based on saying it's an investment. And then you go talk to a finance guy and he would tell you, no, it's not an investment, it's a liability. And it is a liability. It can be an investment, but you got to put enough money into it to make it an investment. So in the car buying experience and having to deal with the financial part of it is a lot of people now have access to credit unions, they have their own resources. And with that, they're now using those.
Right.
If you are a immature buyer, you're a new buyer, and you want to buy a car, first thing, don't let the money get in the way, because you can deal with the money. And I'm not telling you to discard it, but if the money becomes the most important part of it, you will not have a good experience. So then you have to determine what you're willing to pay for it. That's reasonable and equitable. You mean you want the deal to be good for the dealership? And I know this is contrary to what a lot of people want to hear, but if you want a good experience, you should care about the other person sitting in front of you that's going to serve you. So the person sitting in front of you shouldn't be a slave to you and walk away with whatever it may be, because I think a lot of people don't understand the process of how they get paid. A lot of these guys these guys and gals that sit in front of you only get paid based on how much the dealership makes. If the dealership doesn't make anything, they get paid a minimum. Sometimes that minimum could be $50. Sometimes it could be $200, but it won't be much more than that. So, but having to deal with negative equity, you can't get rid of that without putting money into it, if that answers the question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to also talk a little bit about a person's credit when they're going.
Sure.
To it. Let's talk a little bit about their credit. Many times we go in and not being prepared and understanding credit is involved. Whoever picks us up or whatever the finance company is, they're actually looking at our credit as a resume. Will this person pay back? And what timely fashion will they do it?
I'm glad you use that term, that your credit is your form of a resume.
It is, yeah.
Most people, when it comes to, I would say the people that don't understand credit are probably more of a younger generation, a newer buyer, opposed to an older buyer. But if it is, your credit is your signature on paper.
Right.
It's the value of who you are as a person sees you, because they don't get a chance to see you another way. So when they look at your credit, that's the only way a bank will consider you, one way or the other.
Right.
In the car buying process, now there's a credit score. At one time, it wasn't so much as a score, it's just how you lined up in the bureau. But now there's a score. That score will weight you on how you get processed in the bank's portfolio. So if you got a credit score, let's say 600, you won't get the best rate that's available. You're gonna get what the bank what the bank qualifies you for. And oftentimes the dealer don't control that. Does dealers make money off credit? There's three ways a dealer makes money: selling of the car, selling of a used car, and on the finance side of it. We don't make as much money always on the finance side of it as we may do on the sales side of it. But the process of it, when it comes to the credit, your credit portfolio means everything. Nowadays, I've seen credit scores as high as 900,
Wow.
which is the highest you can get.
Wow.
And I've seen them as low as 200 and something. So that's a wide spectrum.
Right.
The person that has a lower credit score, all they have to do is maintain and pay their bills on time.
Ooh,
Paying on time, I don't mean if you have a due date of the 1st and you pay it on the 1st, you already late.
You might have to say that again. You might have to go right back over that.
Yeah, if your payment is due on the 1st and you pay it on the 1st, by the time the banks get it, it's going to be on the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th.
Right.
You're late. And contractually, what most people don't understand is the moment you're late, they have a right to repossess that property.
Mm.
It's in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them won't do it because they're still hoping that you'll pay. And most of us have this cycle of paying. Well, I know payment's due on the 1st, but I got grace. No, God is the only one that offers grace. The banks don't offer grace. What the banks do in their portfolio is when you start paying the grace period, they keep that on their file.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so next thing you know, your credit score may start dropping.
Yes.
Because you're paying in the grace period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I talk to people about credit, I don't, as an advisor to people buying cars, clients, I never talk about credit ever until they've made a decision to buy the car.
Right.
Because if I do that, then I'm profiling them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't want someone to profile me. First thing, attend to my interests first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to spend time with you first. If you bring up credit and say, look, I'm going to be transparent with you. I have some credit issues. I'm overcoming them. I'm going to say, well, how do you want to start this backwards first? You want me to go and you want me to pull your credit and make sure you qualify? Or do you want to just go through the process and look at the car and find out what you like? Well, no, I don't want to get my emotion involved. I want to make sure I can get it. I will walk through that process with a consumer, however they want to do it, makes it comfortable for them.
Right. When they're walking into luxury like this, and
now this is different.
In the dealership where you are, in your luxury, and they've already decided at this point, this is what I want. And this is, they've already decided these are the things I want. I really like this. As a dealership, what I love, and I've seen this with you guys and just looking over a lot of videos, I love the fact that you all are so personable. Very personable. Your customer service is top notch. And we don't see that all the time in not just dealerships, but just across the board in the world. That customer service, I know from just reading about your organization, just seeing what you do, that's number one. Why so?
We know what it's like to fail at doing it.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to I know how to treat people.
Yes.
And we have learned to make that we have learned to make that the spirit of the operation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so in doing that, and don't get me wrong, I can probably name a few clients that really ain't happy with us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we have to we part our ways.
Right.
And sometimes we have people we just can't make happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's natural to life. No 100% of the people are always going to be always happy.
Right. And that's business.
But the majority of them.
Yeah, that's being
yes, sir.
business.
But the majority of them, we do the best we can with staff, trying to make sure staff is properly prepared.
Right.
Trying to make sure we manage. We don't just manage it, we expect it. We inspect what we expect.
Yes.
And that's a constant process.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in. And then the connection between both sales, service, and accounting. We try to make sure that is like woven into the fabric of who we are. Mm-hmm. And so if you ever find a system that's failing and when it comes to service, you'll find a system that's breached in their communication process.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
So we
so
constantly
true.
keep working at it.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, my friend, I tell you, what would you like to leave with the viewers? What would you like to tell them? And just talk.
Well, if you get anything from me today, know that God is real. And I'm not saying that in a very passe kind of way. If you have not heard anything about what I've talked about in my life, and I'm giving you just snapshots of my life, but he has done some miraculous and marvelous things in my life as it pertains to the car business and outside as well. My family and I are always graced by what God does, and we are thankful for the people that have participated in our success, that continue to do so. It's been very encouraging. We have had shoulders to cry on, and many shoulders have and our shoulders have been there for many to cry on. And the car business, as in any other business, has become our family's ministry. And so the biggest thing we want anyone to know is that first, we love the people we serve, and that we realize that we may not always agree, but we learn to agree without, we learn how to disagree without getting upset. And so we can still maintain the cohesiveness of having the camaraderie of what we call a family. And with that, I can say to you, God bless you. I thank you for listening to me and allowing me to be a part of your time. And I can't wait to see how God blesses Cam Hill.
Wow. I surely appreciate you. God bless you. God keep you. And my God, keep covering you. I'm telling you,
Yes, sir.
this has been, for me personally, a true gift. It's one of those gifts that Christmas is coming up, and I've already opened my box. I appreciate you so much. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year for everything you do. Keep going. Keep doing you. And I am so, so, so happy to have met you, my friend.
The pleasure really has been all mine. And if I could say this in closing, there was this big thing that went on for a while. And I'm going to say, Cam, you got mail.
Like that.
And when I say you got mail, I'm not being casual about it.
Yes.
God has just delivered some mail to you.
Ooh, wow.
And in the mail, when you open it, you're going to see that your eyes could not have seen, and your ears could not have heard, and nor could it have entered into your heart of what he's already done for you. So from where you've come from to what you have not yet seen, open your mail.
Thank you so
God
much.
got a great blessing in store for you.
Ooh. You're going to make me run around here, don't
Yeah, I'm only sitting still because the camera is only in one place.
I know, right?
I can't tell you how many times I've shouted so far. And I am so excited about not what's happening just at the dealership, about what the Lord is doing in this season.
Yes.
I mean, this is not a season of famine. God has blessed us in a way that we have seen some things in this season that our eyes have not witnessed.
Yeah.
And God has kept those who trust him. So if anyone's ever had an opportunity, now is the time. If you're going to do it, now is the time to do it. If you've never been encouraged, be encouraged now. If you've never trusted God, trust him now, because the greater is before you.
I thank you so much, friend. You're going to make me run. I'm call you later. But I appreciate you so much. God bless you, keep you, and we love you so much, my friend. Take care.
God bless you too.
We'll see you on tomorrow. We will have on tomorrow Stevie Ray, professional wrestler, as well as Ryan Yarbrough. He's a retired football player and author. Talk to you then, 12:30, 1:30 Central Standard Time. Bye.